ladies and gentlemen. Welcome to Retro Warriors, episode 311. Woo. As always, I'm your host, Justin Baker, and as always, I'm joined by resident old bastard, Chris Saturn.
Hello.
Saturn, we have housekeeping.
Do we? It's been so long since we've done this. I don't remember how it works.
So, as we previewed last episode, I hope, shit is weird. And so...
It's not that weird. Shit is mostly
episode,
normal. We're just going faster. That's all.
Yeah. So we're doing 4 episodes within 7 days. So we did 2 episodes 7 days ago. There's 2 more episodes because I'm going to be gone next week.
Right.
And I'm going to be on vacation. So we decided to get ahead on recording, which means, again, these topics are kind of weird because we had to pick stuff that we don't really have time to do research for like we normally do. Also, E3 happened. So a big chunk of this episode is going to be talking about E3 stuff.
Yeah.
And again, things should be back to normal by episode 313.
Yeah.
Because for these 2 episodes, I'm going to be out of town, but just please keep that in mind. So if you're like, oh my God, things are changing, I'm upset, just relax. They'll go back to normal in a couple weeks.
We'll be very rested at that point, because at that point, we would have gone 3 weeks without recording an episode.
I don't even know what we're going to do going 3 weeks.
Well, you'll spend a week of it out of town. So
yeah, that's true. That's true.
It won't be much of a change for you, but
for
me,
we could just do 2 episodes a week for like a month and then take like a month off.
Right?
That'd be pretty cool. Anyway, my week. I'm still playing the Monster Hunter Generations Ultimate.
Yeah.
I've started playing online.
Oh.
And I forgot how nice people on Monster Hunter online are.
Weird.
I know. I was weirded out as well. It was very disorienting.
Like they know they're online and playing on a video game.
I know. I was like, you can call me a shitlord at any moment, and you're not. What's happening? No, I was streaming the game, and someone just popped in my stream and was like, "Hey, can I play with you?" And I was like, "Oh, I've not played a Monster Hunter online since like the Wii or the Wii U. So yeah, but you got to tell me how to do it, And like we figured it out, and we were playing. And like the second I get online, that person joins my lobby, and then the lobby fills up immediately.
Nice.
And people just played and had a good time, and it was nice. And then I ended up playing it all night long. I played until my capture card died, and then kept playing after that because people just kept showing. Other people showed up in the stream. Were like, "Hey, can I come play too?" It's just really nice.
That's crazy.
Nobody was shitty. Everyone was The worst thing that happened is one guy one time was pretty bad at the game. But he kept apologizing, and he kept being like, "Sorry."
Was it me? Was I the one there?
No. And I was like, "It's fine, man. Like it's totally fine. Like we're playing low rank stuff. I assume everyone's going to be bad at the game."
Right.
And it was just it's just a good time. And then now I've just kind of started playing Monster Hunter Generations Ultimate online because it's nice. People are nice on Monster Hunter. I don't.
Very nice.
I guess Guy, I was talking about it in the Discord, and Guy is like, he thinks it's funny that I just assume everyone on the internet is a piece of shit,
right?
Because
they usually are.
I played Xbox Live in the 360 era. Yeah. It was so bad that we all swore off online gaming with any type of communication for the rest of our lives. And it turns out not everyone is a piece of shit. So
sometimes they're still pieces of shit, because I did try to play that beta of the new Resident Evil, the asymmetrical multiplayer they call it. I tried some of that, and I didn't even have a headset or anything in, so it sometimes plays voice chat through the TV. And when I died at one point, I just heard what sounded like a little kid saying, "What a dumb piece of shit." So I guess they're still out there.
I do have bad experiences with randoms on Forza Horizons. That people just, God, they're assholes in that game. Every now and then I'll get a random looped in, and then they're annoying. Although last night, the other night I was playing Forza Online with Guy and Andrew and a friend of ours, and we had some random join. For some reason, Andrew accidentally queued up the lobby publicly, and so a random joins, and of course we're joking around like, "Oh, who's this asshole?" We're just making jokes, and then on the very first turn, he tries to like pass me, but I don't see him, and I accidentally turn into him and throw him entirely off of a cliff. So after us being like, who's this asshole? I just killed him. And I was like, I didn't mean to. I'm sorry.
He wasn't in voice chat with you, was he?
No, I don't think so. I don't actually know. We were in Discord.
Okay, good. Yeah, if you guys were in Discord,
I can't imagine how he would have heard any of us.
Yeah.
Also, I'm trying to get through Yakuza 7. I've hit a boss that I've had to grind over a dozen levels for and still can't beat him.
Damn. Is there maybe some trick that you didn't catch or something?
No, I looked it up and they're like it's just a really hard battle, and I was like, all right, well, I think I'm almost done. And then they're like, well, halfway through it gets twice as hard, and I was like, are you fucking kidding me?
So you're gonna load it up on your PC and use Cheat Engine to push past, right?
No, I've done so much grinding at this point, and I even went and read like what are good class combinations, how should I had to go learn the combat system base, because until then I'd just been playing and having fun, and then now it's like this hardcore like I need to maximize all my damage, figure out all my classes, play really efficiently to get where I need to be, and then the grinding is just it's this thing that's called Battle Tower, where you just do battle after battle that gets progressively harder with no story whatsoever. Which is preferable to the earlier game grinding spot, which is like a dungeon that you go through that just kind of goes forever. Because you just immediately do the battles and you don't have to do any other running around. But it's getting kind of tedious now.
I bet. Yeah, I could see how that would happen. I'm
almost to that boss's level.
Nice.
And so I'm gonna try it being the same level as him. And if he still whoops my ass, then I don't even fucking know. It was one of those things where I was like, am I playing wrong? Am I supposed to lose? Am I not supposed to be here? Yeah. But no. And it's one of those things where, because sometimes you know, when you're not grinding enough or you're not doing whatever enough in a game, you kind of notice it's getting more difficult and you're like, all right, I should probably stop and go catch up. This is just like a brick wall in the middle of like a country lane. I was like, what happened? Why is it so hard?
Right.
And I'm regretting that I didn't play on normal or on easy, and that you cannot lower the difficulty once you've played the game. Which
that's a shame. That's weird, because I feel like in all the other Yakuzas you could lower the difficulty.
Maybe I'm missing it, but I did not see that as
I started them all on easy anyway, so I don't
I was going to, but I was like, no, I've done the last 3 I played on easy, or the last 2 I played on easy. Let's do normal, you know. On
the one that drastically changes the gameplay genre.
Yes.
Yeah, that's good. That was a good choice.
Well, in my head, I'm like, well, it's grinding. So grinding's, you know, all I got to do is grind, and that's easy. And the nature of the battle system in Yakuza 7 means that you really kind of can't mindlessly grind.
It requires some activity.
It does require some activity. There are QTEs. You can turn them off, but then you don't deal so when you do special moves, you have QTEs. Every special move has a QTE. Yeah. They're pretty simple. It's just mash X or do a timed button press.
Like in Paper Mario.
Yeah, it really even less complicated than that, honestly. But if you do them right, you do extra damage. Also, anytime you are hit by anything that does any amount of damage, you can perfect block to reduce your damage by hitting
Paper Mario.
Like in Paper Mario.
Okay.
And you can turn those QTEs off in the settings, but they don't like auto do them for you. They just remove them from the game.
Gotcha.
As far as I can tell. So you kind of got to have that going on. Also, the auto combat mode does not let you set per character. So it's kind of useless at any battle that poses any amount of challenge.
Right.
You can set it to like, hey, go all out, or play smart, or don't use abilities, or focus on healing. But you can't set it per character, and it's just not real smart. It does it doesn't do things that you assume it would do. Like, hey, this enemy has literally 1 HP left. Just have someone do a normal attack to finish him off. They'll just go they'll do a special attack on him, or they'll go attack some other enemy.
So what you're saying is that the AI and the level of nuance you have in controlling the AI is worse than in Dragon Quest IV from 1991.
Yes, I am saying that. And going into the game, I knew that everyone said, hey, it's a really fun game, but the actual RPG side of it is pretty dated feeling. And I definitely agree with that, and have agreed with that the whole time. But at least so far it's been easy. Now it's getting difficult. I'm still enjoying it. I'm
Right.
still hoping I can finish the game. But it's all of a sudden out of nowhere I'm having to reckon with the RPG system. And I think that's where maybe a lot of, because I remember reading a lot of reviews, people basically were like, it's great, and then halfway through you just kind of get sick of it. And I think this is kind of the point where people were hitting. So I'm about the 40-hour mark. I'm on chapter 12 out of 15.
Nice.
And it's this thing where it's all of a sudden I'm like, I haven't had to really reckon with the combat system so far, and now I'm being forced to. And
You've come across a meat wall.
yeah, it's a little rough, but I'm trying to power through it. Hopefully I can play some on my vacation via xCloud streaming, but that remains to be seen.
Right. Yeah. Speaking of, I finished Yakuza 0,
Yes.
which it was good. It was a very satisfying ending. It did do a pretty good job of setting up for what would eventually happen in Yakuza 1 and 2. A couple of things were still basically just kind of hand waved, like things I kept expecting to see an answer for, like why does Majima feel the need to wear that snakeskin jacket with no shirt all the time? But then just in the
Yes.
last scene, he's wearing it and nobody asks him about it at all.
It just seems like it would chafe.
Yeah, it does not look comfortable. But yeah, it's just a lot of the things that you feel like the game is building up to giving you an answer for. Instead, it answers all the other questions that the game itself posed. And at the very end, it's like, and now this happened. And that's how it's set up.
You're like, okay,
Yeah, and
Thanks.
it's not dissatisfying. It's just a little anticlimactic.
a little tacked on.
Yeah. However, it was still good. Still highly recommended. The game itself is fantastic. Like all of the game building up to that is worth it. And then I went back and played the separate Majima chapters from Kiwami 2 because I put those off originally because I had read that you would not enjoy them if you hadn't played Yakuza 0, and they are right. Because it basically is just a follow-up of Majima's story from Yakuza 0. That was nice.
Okay, then.
It was a short little, like, hour and a half thing. So it was nice and fun. And there's no side quests or sub-stories or anything in it. So it's very, very straightforward. And then I started Yakuza 6, which uses the same game engine and game style as Kiwami 2.
Yeah.
So it was nice to get back to modern. But I had forgotten that the model they used for Kiryu in that game has him look like he's always just noticed somebody shit in front of him. Like he's got that scrunched, squint, angry look 100% of the time. And it took a little getting used to that. I saw somebody on the internet refer to it as frog face Kiryu. And now it's all I can think of anytime the camera shows his face.
Yeah.
But otherwise, the game so far is fine. It's it's very, very similar to Kiwami 2 gameplay wise. So if you liked that, you'd like 6. But then I also, based on your suggestion in the chat, went ahead and picked up Taiko no Tatsujin on Switch because it was on
Drum and
sale.
fun.
Yeah, it was on sale for $10.
Yeah.
And I was playing it for I don't know an hour. And was like, fuck it, I have to have a drum. What the fuck is wrong with me? What am I doing?
Yep.
And then I
And
bought
you
a
went and
goddamn
bought
drum.
the hoary drum.
I did, and it's a fun accessory to use because I love rhythm games, and I especially love rhythm games with stupid controllers. That's one of my favorite things, and it's been a long time since I've bought one.
Yeah. Now tell me this, because I have been playing Taiko with just the button controls.
Right.
And I'm getting pretty good with the button controls. Yeah. I do not feel like I would be nearly as good with a drum just because it's faster to press buttons.
Right,
you
yeah.
know?
And I'm that way in every rhythm game. If I can just use a controller, I'm always going to be better that way than I am with the dedicated controller. And it's the same here. I am much better with just buttons than I am with the drums. Also, there was a little bit of a delay. I have found somebody that had a similar model TV to me and told me some delay settings to put into the system settings in the game to make it a little more functional, and that has helped a lot. I can now play the mini games, which is nice. Because before the delay was so much that I could not play the game without using Kirby, who fudges your timing.
Yes, who I started playing as Kirby. And then, because I didn't even know that what he does is he gives you easier timing
Right.
for your drum beats.
It says that on the character select.
Well, I didn't read it. I just saw who do you want to be, and I was like, Kirby, duh.
Yeah.
And then I changed characters, and that's when I realized what Kirby's ability was,
Right.
and I immediately was missing every note.
Yeah.
And I was like, oh no, Kirby taught me sloppy timing, and now I'm fucked.
Yeah.
And it took me a while to unlearn that,
But no, my biggest complaint about the physical drum controller is it's got it's made well enough as far as a little plastic
As far as a plastic taiko
Right.
drum.
Yeah, it works fine. But the feet on it's just got little rubber feet with grips. No matter what surface I put it on, it slides backwards
Slides.
the whole time I'm playing.
I saw online people were taking 2 water bottles and stuffing them in the bottom. It perfectly fits 2 filled water bottles, and that holds it still.
I could see that.
Yeah.
I don't have any water bottles that would fit in there, unfortunately.
Well, they do sell water bottles. You can go buy
I
one.
don't believe you. I don't think
Yep.
that's a thing they sell.
I guess you'll just have to fill a trash bag full of water and put that inside of there. That's your only.
Just take some saran wrap, fill it with water, and tie it real good.
It's your only option.
But no, that's about it. Just yakuzaing and little tiny plastic drumming. That's my life right now.
Let's get into the news because there's quite a bit. So what we've done here is, in the interest of getting E3 news out as quick as possible, which
Right.
for us means about 2 weeks after E3 happened, we have put all the E3 news in this episode
Right.
and all the non-E3 news in the next episode. All that said, as a reminder, we are a retro gaming podcast.
Right.
We're really only going to talk about
Retro adjacenty things.
retro adjacent stuff.
Yeah.
I would say classic gaming related stuff.
Yeah.
So yeah.
And
for the most
occasionally
part,
we'll
we
mention
mentioned some other
things that
things,
we
but
enjoy. But
we're not going to talk a lot about Forza Horizon 5. I would love to. It looks great.
But
it's not-
I'm pretty sure Ubisoft had an event. I didn't even watch it.
Yeah, but it's the so this is really just the stuff that one is either relevant to the show or 2 is relevant to us, our personal tastes.
Right.
I'm not going to lie and pretend like we don't kind of fudge that a little
What?
bit to put in things that
You
we just
fudge
like and
things?
want to talk about. I do. I fudge things constantly. First up in our E3 news, Mario plus Rabbids Spark of Hope announced with a 2022 release date. I'm excited for this.
It got leaked too.
Yeah.
It got leaked by Nintendo themselves. Good job, guys.
As we were just talking about how we're mostly going to cover retro stuff, and then we're like, new Ubisoft game. But
It has Mario, and
if,
Mario is a classic character.
if you did not play Mario plus Rabbids, the original one, unfortunately, you have to give Ubisoft money to get a copy.
Right.
So maybe buy it used or something.
Yeah.
But it's a very fun. I've been calling it an XCOM like. Anyone that's played the 2012
Right.
or whatever it was reboot of XCOM,
It was very
it's
similar. to
very much that, but a little easier and with
lighthearted.
Mario characters.
that. Yeah.
Very fun strategy game.
Yeah.
Very much like that. Psychonauts 2 confirmed for August 25th release date.
That's a long
Which is-
gap between entries in that series. That's what,
Yeah,
18
it's like,
years?
What is that? Yeah, a couple decades.
Yeah.
Yeah, it's pretty far up there. I've never played the original Psychonauts. I keep meaning to. It's been on my Xbox for months and months and months.
I've played a bit
for
of
me to
it.
get around to it.
And it's a fun, neat little 3D platformer, but it's one that I always just kind of lose interest in a few hours in, and I don't know why.
I've been told that it is the game of a generation by
It
a
is-
lot of people.
It is incredibly charming. I will definitely say that.
So I'm honestly, I think I want to enjoy it. So it's one of those games where you're like, I really want to have a good experience with this. So I'm going to download it and I'm just going to wait until I'm in the right headspace for it.
That's a funny
know.
word for that specific game.
And I've just been waiting for that to happen so that
Right.
I'm like, yes, I'm into this now. Because, sometimes there's things where you're like, it really depends on your mood. And if you kind of force it, you'll bounce off of it.
Absolutely.
Next up, Hades, the wonderful rogue-like. I guess it's a rogue-like. It's weird. It's getting a physical release on PS4 and 5 and Xbox One X and S on August 13th. So
And
if
it's
you've
also
not played
coming to
Hades-
Game Pass on August 13th.
It's already. Is it not? I thought it was already on Game Pass.
No, the
Is
game
it
itself
coming
doesn't
later?
release until
Okay.
August 13th.
Okay, well that makes more sense then, because I remember being like, why did they make the physical later? So yeah, it's a great game. If you have Game Pass, play it. It's very fun.
Nice.
I think the two roguelikes that have become my default recommendations for people that are like, hey, I want to kind of see what roguelikes are about, but it's kind of a scary genre for me.
Right.
I'd say either Hades or Tangle Deep. Those are my two like general purpose roguelike recommendations.
What if I were to say to you, I kind of want to try a roguelike, but I hate failure and I like to complete games on the first try?
Then Tangle Deep, because it has extremely granular difficulty options that you can change before you. So you can be like, you can turn off permadeath, you can turn on health regeneration, you can turn on all kinds of shit.
So you can basically just make it not a roguelike at that point.
Pretty much. Basically, you can just make it a game that looks and plays like a roguelike, but is not one. And that's why it's my recommendation for people that are like, hey, I want to get into the genre. Hades, just because Hades is so good. It's still a brutal game, but it's just really good, and it's a really good example of the genre.
Nice.
Although really it's not, I guess it's a roguelite, because it is not a turn-based game. It is an action game.
And there's also progress that you carry forward.
Yes. Tangle Deep is very much traditional turn-based roguelike. Tangle Deep's wonderful. Now I'm just going to talk about Tangle Deep. It's a great game. If you haven't played it, go check it out. Diablo 2 Resurrected confirmed for September 23rd, 2021 release date.
I think that was the only game in the Xbox showcase that did not say it was coming to Game Pass.
They showed it and we're like, oh, Diablo 2 Resurrected come to Game Pass, because it was in the Xbox event, and then it never said Game Pass. Then I was like, why did they show it here then?
Right?
I mean, didn't we already know it was coming to Xbox?
Yeah, we did know it was coming to all the consoles, so
kind of seems like
weird.
why? Like,
I don't know.
Like, I don't want to be shitty and be like, if it's not on Game Pass, get it the fuck out of here. But if it's not on Game Pass, get the fuck out of here. Yeah. I still don't know if I'm going to buy it or not. I don't know.
Yeah.
I don't want to give Activision money because they're upset
Activision.
me. But at the same time, it's Vicarious Visions, and it's one of my favorite, most played games. I feel like I'm probably going to get it.
Yeah.
Age of Empires 4 launching October 23rd. It has been quite a while since we've gotten an Age of Empires game.
That's true.
When did 3 come out? Was it
2005?
late aughts? Yeah,
2006, somewhere in there.
It's been a hot minute. So Age of Empires, October 23rd. I'm excited for it.
Yeah.
I was never a big enough of an Age of Empires fan to understand why people preferred 2 over 3 or anything. I just thought they were all fun. Because I think I just didn't play it enough. But we'll see.
I think a lot of it was just the Age of Empires 2 came out in peak RTS era of late 90s, where it was the genre to play, and by the time Age of Empires 3 came out, that trend had kind of passed, and there were still definitely RTS players that were absolutely in love with the genre, but it didn't have that level of attention that it did during Age of Empires 2's peak.
Eiyuden Chronicle Rising coming in 2022, with Eiyuden Chronicle confirmed for a 2023 release date. This is the Suikoden-like that was on Kickstarter a while back. I believe it has a bunch of the original Suikoden team.
Yes. And they had previously said through Kickstarter that, yes, it will not make a 2022 date. It will probably be a 2023 date. But what we learned is that in the meantime, they're going to release a spin-off side game, which is neat.
Mm-hmm.
It's something I don't know anything about it yet.
It seems neat. It looked cool. Well, we really don't know much about it at this point.
I'll probably get it just because I'm a sucker.
Yeah. Yakuza Like a Dragon, Doom 2016, and Fallouts 1 through 3, and more are now on Game Pass. Literally right now. Go play them right now. They're there. They added a whole bunch of stuff to Game Pass.
I was surprised to see Fallout 1 and 2 on there.
I was too. I don't know how you're going to do that with a controller, but
you can't.
Okay.
It's only on PC.
Oh, is it PC only? Okay,
Yeah.
that makes more sense. In my head, I was like, cool, they made it work with a controller. But I guess they did it with if they did it with Baldur's Gate, they could do it with Fallout.
That's fair.
You know?
Yeah.
So I'm just saying.
Speaking of Baldur's Gate, this is completely unrelated. I think the new Dark Alliance comes out next week.
It comes out on the 26th is the date. The previews and preview coverage have been a little lukewarm, which makes me glad that it's on Game Pass day one.
Right.
I do kind of wonder, because a lot of people are like, it's just really generic hack and slash action RPG with not a very deep story. And I'm like, did you play the other Dark
Right.
Alliance games? Because that's
Seriously.
exactly what they were. Like,
Also, I think it says that it's early access when it comes out on Game Pass next week. So maybe the story
really?
isn't done.
I mean, I don't think they're going to add a lot in the way of
Probably
story.
not. No.
I remember one guy, I saw one guy on Reddit that was like, it's a D&D game, but you just play these dumb generic characters. And I'm like, I'm sorry. These.
As opposed to the established D&D character Hero Makiroten.
You play R.A. Salvatore characters. You play
okay.
Drizzt Do'Urden and all those people from the
Alright.
Icewind Dale books. Like, there's some of the most famous fantasy characters of all time that are the main characters of the current main D&D universe. Like,
Well,
it
then it
is
makes
as close. It is as close to a current D&D main character group as you could get. It's just weird.
Yeah.
People are weird. What I'm thinking is that a lot of people playing RPGs and action RPGs now just weren't really playing them on the PS2,
I
and
imagine.
they're looking for something that's either a Souls-like or something a little more
Right.
in depth or more of an RPG. And I'm like, nah, you just cut things up with the sword and get loot.
Right.
It was like Diablo Light.
Yep.
Final Fantasy 1 through 6 pixel remasters coming to Android, iOS, Steam, and not Switch soon. Literally no details
None
given.
whatsoever. However, they did go back and change the icons for Final Fantasy 3 and 4 on Steam and mobile, so that now they say 3D remake at the bottom.
Yeah, with the shittiest, ugliest looking
It's
banner
so
of all
dumb
time.
looking. But
It looks like whenever you when you go search for a game on the Play Store or the iOS store,
yeah.
and it's like that you have like the knockoff games
Right.
that you're like, oh, that's not it. It's just trying to look like it and
Yeah.
get me to download. It looks like those now.
Or the apps that are just guides for actual games, and it just says
Yeah.
the word guide at the bottom. It looks like that.
Sacrifier, coming to all platforms, was announced as a Kickstarter game with a 2022 release date. Claims to be a mix of real-time and turn-based combat. Looks very old school JRPG-esque.
Had an interesting art style to it too.
Yeah, I'm interested. In general, for Kickstarter stuff, I don't back in. I just wait for it to
Right.
hit a shelf because I've learned better. Yeah, I'll be keeping an eye on that one. Devolver Digital did their event and announced some cool stuff. For me, Trek to Yomi and Shadow Warrior 3 were the highlight trailers for me. Trek to Yomi just looks amazing. Look, it just looks beautiful. It's just it's like a side-scrolling game, but the whole thing looks like an old Kurosawa film.
Yeah.
It's just really neat. And then Shadow Warrior 3 just literally looked like Doom 2016, and I was like, yeah, I'll take more of that, please. Thank you.
Honestly,
Thanks.
I can't remember a single game from that, but their whole presentation was hilarious. It was just a mockery of all of the games as a service and loot box and all the dumb shit that the video game industry is doing right now.
Yeah.
And at the very end, they offered to sell a VHS tape of the presentation, one single VHS tape, to one single person. And true to form, it was sold out in seconds.
God damn it. I wonder who got it.
I don't know.
Project Warlock 2 announced, coming 2022. This is a kind of what was the like fantasy Doom clone game? Heretic.
Oh yeah.
It's kind of a Heretic-esque sort of game. I played it on stream a while back. It's a real fun game. I'm excited for that one. Story of Seasons, Friends of Mineral Town, coming to PS4 and Xbox this fall. I believe it was previously released only on Switch.
And I'm wondering if Marvelous thinks they didn't make enough on the Switch version, if they're suddenly porting it to other things.
Yeah, I don't know. I feel like I was going to get it, but I had just bought Mineral Town, the GBA version, like a week before it came out. Just happened to have picked that one up then, and I was like, well, I just bought it on GBA, and that has the cute little pixely graphics, so
Right.
I'm good. And Andrew bought it, and he was like, it's Mineral Town, you know. So I think maybe it just wasn't.
I'm trying to remember, was the previous one available? I think it was already released on PC when the Switch version came out.
Maybe. And this one might be on PC. I did not check. I want to say it was just Switch, but I really don't know.
It was Switch and PC. I just confirmed.
Yeah.
So before it was Switch and PC, now it's being ported to PS4 and Xbox.
Yeah. Final Fantasy Origins Stranger of Paradise shown. Coming to everything but the Switch in 2022, made by Team Ninja, who you may know from their game Metroid Other M.
Oh, so they have an excellent track record of taking established franchises and making side games that are critically beloved, right?
I don't know why I want to shit on Team Ninja. They do good work.
They do, because they also did
like calling them Team Ninja of Metroid Other M.
Because, I mean, they've also done all the Dead or Alive games and the more recent Ninja Gaiden games. They did Neo. So they've got an okay track record, but man,
the demo for this is out. I've heard that it's pretty good. I
have heard the opposite from some people.
Really? Now, what I say is pretty good. Whenever I say that, I mean I read Reddit comments and people liked it. So
yeah, I've been hearing some people saying that it's a little awkward. Like the actual moment to moment gameplay is fine, but whatever they're trying to do to frame the story feels stilted and awkward. So we'll see what comes out of it.
River City Girls 2 coming in 2022. Also, River City Girls 0 is coming this year, which is a localized version of Shin Niketsu Koha Kunio Taki no Banka, which was, I think, one of the earlier games to feature those characters.
Yeah.
So very excited for both of those.
Yeah.
I liked River City Girls, did not love it. So I'm hoping that I click a little better with this one, and I'm just going to give him my money anyway because I just want more Kunio games forever and always.
Yeah, and you get a classic one too, so that's good.
Capcom had an event. Taito Milestones Collection was announced for the Switch coming February 2022.
And that Capcom event was it was the most anticlimactic. And the best part was the presenter wouldn't stare directly at the camera the whole time. So it was almost as if she knew that the audience was disappointed and didn't want to make eye contact with them.
They showed so much Ace Attorney. And here's the thing. I'm not knocking Ace Attorney. People love Ace Attorney, and more power to you, but it is not a great game to show the gameplay of.
Right. And we should mention that because Ace Attorney is a retro game at this point in some people's classification.
My God.
Yeah, there is that Ace Attorney collection coming out. And I believe it's games that weren't previously released over here, if I'm not mistaken.
That I couldn't tell you. So I could not tell you.
There is that.
Also, Monster Hunter Stories 2 is coming, and that's apparently a JRPG. So
yeah, that's what it looks like.
There you go. Taito Milestones Collection was announced for the Switch coming February 2022 in Japan. No U.S. version mentioned yet. It includes the Ninja Warriors, Halley's Comet, the Fairyland Story, Chack and Pop, Elevator Action, Alpine Ski, Wild Western, and Frontline. So every famous Taito game. Yeah. All of them Saturn.
Yeah, except for, those ones you might remember.
I don't know. I feel like Chack and Pop is for sure their most popular game. I can't think of a more popular game Taito owns the rights to.
I'm so upset at this collection because all the games that I would want are not there. You don't have Arkanoid, you don't have Kicks, you don't have Bubble Bobble, you don't have Puzzle Bobble, you don't have New Zealand Story, which is clearly the most important one.
Now, I've not heard of any of these. Are they like Chack and Pop and Alpine Ski?
Actually, they are like Chack and Pop. Characters from Chack and Pop appear in Bubble Bobble and vice versa. So, yes.
Yeah, it's a weird collection.
Yeah. Now, we mentioned on the previous episode about the weird Taito arcade release that is coming out, right?
Yes, the little arcade machine. Yeah. The Egret 2 Mini?
That has a much better game selection. Costs way more, though.
Yeah. Blood Rain Betrayal. That's right. Blood Rain. Yeah. Blood Rain Betrayal Fresh Bites was announced by WayForward, coming to all platforms this summer, and looks really fun.
Yeah, it's a 2D platformer. What a weird series to just revive out of nowhere.
For people that don't remember, Blood Rain was a PS2 era series about a sexy vampire lady who went around in 3D environments doing sexy vampire lady things.
Right. It was basically a game that really wanted to be Legacy of Kain, but didn't have the rights to be Legacy of Kain.
Yes.
And it also kind of wanted to be Tomb Raider. Really, it was a game that just wanted to chase every path that Eidos had set.
Yeah, I want to do all the popular things right now, all at once.
Yeah.
And so it looks really good.
Yeah, it's
I might
surprising.
pick it up.
Right?
Limited Run Games to publish the English version of Castlevania Rondo of Blood for the TurboGrafx CD/Turbo Duo, as well as a physical of the PS4 Rondo Symphony Collection.
That's very exciting. That's
All very exciting news.
the fact that there is a new TurboGrafx release coming out is exciting. And the fact that it is finally an official licensed English translation of Rondo is also exciting. I expect that LRG will make 100 copies of it because I can't imagine there's a huge audience for TurboGrafx CD games.
Yeah.
And therefore it will immediately cost a fortune. That's my prediction.
Yeah, I'm kind of anticipating the same. New Sonic Colors Ultimate levels were shown, which is exciting for Sonic Colors fans. They announced Sonic Colors Ultimate, and then now they're showing new levels for it.
And also, if you get the physical version of the game, it comes with a little tiny Kid Sonic keychain that looks adorable.
Yeah. Then the Nintendo Direct happened.
Yes.
In which they did not announce the Nintendo Switch Pro.
No, Justin, I was told explicitly by every news agency that they would definitively announce a Switch Pro before E3.
Now, because they didn't announce the Switch Pro, every news outlet is saying that they failed and ruined E3.
Right.
And it's Nintendo's
And that
fault.
they had the weakest press conference. They didn't show anything anybody wanted to see.
Correct.
Which apparently what people wanted to see was a Switch Pro and literally nothing else.
What they did show was Kazuya from Tekken coming to Smash.
Yeah.
So that's exciting for Tekken fans.
Tekken fans, yeah.
They showed a new 2D Metroid game.
Metroid 5.
Blowing everyone's minds.
Right?
Metroid Dread.
Oh, my
Yes,
God.
that Metroid Dread announced back in 2005.
2005, 2006, somewhere in there.
It's coming out October 8th, so in
Holy
a
shit.
few months.
Oh, I'm so stoked.
Very excited. All new 2D Metroid game. Looks great. There's a $30 Amiibo 2-pack that will unlock in-game items. It's unknown if those items can be obtained any other way. They've been confirmed to be a health tank and a missile upgrade.
Right. And also it's being developed by Mercury Steam, who also did Samus Returns. So they have a track record. We know that they are capable of this.
I don't even care. It's new 2D Metroid. It looks cool. I love the new colors on it. The whole new color scheme. I love the new aesthetic.
Her new suit looks great. I'm very excited.
I'm stoked on this. Super Monkey Ball. It's coming October 5th. This is Super Monkey Ball Mania. I believe
Banana
it's called.
Mania.
Banana Mania.
Yeah.
And it's going to be a collection of all the good Super Monkey Balls in one package.
That's very convenient.
Which is very exciting. A new WarioWare game. WarioWare Get It Together coming September 10th.
Nice.
This year.
I am so ready for some new WarioWare. Like that compilation version that was last year before, I think.
Yeah, gold or whatever.
That was a nice refresher, but I haven't had any new WarioWare in years. I need it.
Yeah. Advance Wars 1+2 Reboot Camp was announced, which is a remake of Advance Wars 1 and 2 and includes a new third chapter of some sort. And it's coming December 3rd, and it's very, very soon. Also very soon.
And it's being done by WayForward. So,
yes.
Also a company with a good track record.
Very excited for this. I'm excited for an Advance Wars 1 remake. Some of the earlier Advance Wars games are a little rough. Advance Wars 1 is the roughest.
Right.
They all play fine, but the later levels are like, no, you need to exactly solve this the way the developer wanted you to, or you're going to lose.
They have very narrow windows to do anything.
Yes, I'm hoping they kind of fix a little bit of that.
Right.
Also, Advance Wars 2, which is very good.
Yeah.
And then finally, a Zelda Game & Watch was announced, coming out November 12th. It includes Zelda 1, Zelda 2, and the original Game Boy version of Link's Awakening.
Yes.
It includes an adaptation of Vermin, which is a Game & Watch game with Link.
Reason.
It lets you play the clock screen, and they have added a timer.
Oh, no.
It's $49.99. It's for pre-order now. Hopefully you get a pre-order in, because I've been seeing them kind of start selling out in some places.
I'm pretty stoked about it. I'm worried that they're going to make less of them than the Mario ones just because of how many Mario ones they made.
Yeah. Well, the Mario one, did they even really do pre-orders on that one?
They did, because I'd pre-ordered it.
Okay, I couldn't remember.
And then also there are Zelda generally has a smaller audience than Mario does. So I'm worried they'll make less for that reason.
Well, also, the Mario ones are still sitting on store shelves in Nintendo, obviously, we've learned this in the last few years, fucking hates their products to be on
Right.
shelves.
Yeah,
So I
they-
really have a feeling that I agree, basically,
Right.
is that I think they're going to release less of them.
But it
So-
is a nice collection of games. I am shocked that it doesn't have the original Zelda Game and Watch game. But I guess the Mario one didn't have the original Mario Game and Watch games either. So, you know,
I mean, for $50 just as a collectible with 3 Zelda games,
Right.
I think the price is good for what it is. The Game and Watch Mario one, I think I even said it at the time. It's cool, but it feels a little steep.
Right.
This one, you've got a lot of game there to
Yeah.
play. So I think it'll be fun. It'll be exciting.
it's got 2 of my favorite Zelda games on there, and 1 Zelda game that I enjoy, even if it's not one of my favorites. So that's a good collection.
I don't want you to clarify any of that information.
Nope,
'cause
I'm just gonna
I
let
think
you believe
will
it on your
only
own.
upset me in some way. Anyway, that brings us to our topic at hand. This week we're talking about the state of the hobby in 2021 because 1, it was a very research-light topic. 2, it coincides with E3 and it just kind of works out to have an E3 State of the Union type thing.
Right.
And also, we haven't done a state of the hobby episode in a little while.
Yeah.
And
Which hobby are we discussing?
antique lamp collecting.
Oh, let me go get my lanterns.
Yeah, so that's no. Lanterns are separate. That's
Shit.
a separate topic. You got
I
just
wasn't
lamp. We're
prepared
doing
for
just
this.
lamps. We occasionally like to kind of talk about classic gaming as a hobby
Right.
and where things sort of are.
This kind of
in my
gives
head-
a refresher for people that don't follow the hobby very closely. I know sometimes I'll get into the situation where I start watching or listening to somebody, and I'll catch an episode, and they're like, "Well, you should go get these specific games or this hardware because
and you
it's
check
all
and you're like, oh my god.
yeah, it's all exorbitantly priced by this point." But the person in the video or recording or whatever is like, "It's really cheap right now, so get all these things." And so it's nice to catch back up on this every now and then, so that we're not
Yeah.
always giving drastically out of date information.
Right. And it's nice to just kind of sometimes just to put all of our current, like, this is what hardware and software stuff is going on right now all in one episode for
Right.
convenience's sake. I like to imagine that this is useful for people who go through I know a lot of our listeners listen to our backlog. I
For some
feel
reason.
I feel like it would not be absurd for me to assume that most our listeners are not staying current week to week. They're listening to our backlog because I've heard a lot of people say, yeah, I listen to a lot of older episodes. And it makes sense because we're topic based. We're not, current event based or anything. We
Right.
cover the news, but even then we don't cover any real modern news for the most
No.
part outside of like Nintendo and some PC stuff.
Right.
So I feel like this is hopefully useful to those of you who are discovering us and going through a backlog.
Right.
Anyway, synopsis. We're mostly going to be talking about chip shortages and eBay, so enjoy.
That's pretty much what the hobby is right now.
Yeah, basically.
Yeah.
So let's talk about just the current state of the classic gaming hardware landscape.
Right.
And it should be noted for the millionth time that chip shortages are just ravaging the industry.
And not just the video game industry. Any industry
Yes.
that uses computers or computer chips. The car industry has had major shortages this year. It's every major industry is feeling the hurt from this computer chip shortage.
Yeah. Some sources are saying to expect them through at least 2022.
Yeah.
And I imagine that only applies to larger manufacturers. I
Right.
assume smaller manufacturers will have to wait even longer. Because whenever silicon does start becoming available, the first people that are going to get it are going to be,
Right.
the NVIDIAs and the Intels of the world.
Yeah. Not to mention all of the other non-gaming industries that are also going to have laid claim to stuff.
Additionally, shipping issues continue to plague basically all industries worldwide. Freight shipping right now is in an unprecedented era. I've heard so many people talking about freight shipping and how insane it is. It's like things are costing 4 and 5 times more than they previously did.
Right.
Your stuff just isn't showing up.
Yeah.
They'll put it on a different ship and go, we don't know where it went. It's insane right now.
It's because the traffic isn't working like it used to. So freight is going one direction but not going back the other direction. And
Yes.
so crates and containers aren't are just lying dormant somewhere and not helping.
Well, we
anyone.
also India is still getting, and COVID in general
Yes.
is still a thing. India is still
absolutely.
getting hammered by
Oh,
COVID, and I think that they have a whole huge amount of our shipping containers worldwide that are kind of holed up with their whole situation right now. So
and
really,
a lot of countries are
worldwide-
still feeling it. I know it's starting to wind down a little bit here in the U.S.
Yeah.
But worldwide, it is not yet in the winding down phase, so it is
No.
still a thing.
So let's talk about Analog. They have been pretty quiet on the Analog Pocket and the Analog
I love
Duo.
I love that we're just transitioning from COVID into analog.
At
Basically
the
the
time
same.
of writing, their store is literally out of stock of every single item they sell
Right.
except for 8-bit-do controllers.
Right, which they are really just selling somebody else's product at that point.
Yes. So you can't buy anything or even pre-order anything from Analog right now, and you haven't been able to for months.
Yeah.
The
They haven't even
Analog,
started taking pre-orders for the Duo yet.
No. The Analog NT Mini was advertised as the final run in their most recent run of it.
Right,
So they're either done with NES consoles or they have not announced its successor.
right, which we won't
and
know
the-
until it happens.
Yeah, the Analog Pocket recently was delayed to the end of the year, which we talked about in our news in April. So Analog is very quiet right now.
Yeah, they kind of feel like they've been just on pause for a while.
Yeah, it definitely. Well, I mean, except for announcing new shit,
Right.
they've announced plenty
weird.
of things in the last year.
Yeah.
But there's not much coming out of them right now. I
Right.
assume that a lot of it is just they really do, by all accounts, put together a high-end product. So they're probably getting high-end parts and high-end chips that are hard to come by right now.
Yeah.
Probably harder to come by than a lot of the more common hardware
Right.
that a lot of other people are making use of.
That's true.
So really, we don't know anything about what's going on. They're pretty quiet in general.
Right.
The Atari VCS, it was slated for June 15th.
It came out on June 15th.
Yeah, I wrote these notes. I put in here, future note, did it happen? It did happen.
Yes.
You
You should tell past Justin that.
Yes, I'll go back in time. And it has a price of $299 or $399, depending on the controller setup you want.
Ugh.
The
And-
specs on this are 8 gigabytes of RAM,
Yeah.
32 gigabytes of storage,
Yeah.
Vega 3 graphics,
Mm-hmm.
and the RAM is upgradable. The storage is upgradable. It has an additional M.2 slot,
Right.
but it's a pretty low spec machine.
Yeah.
And I would like anyone to ask me how this is different from a regular mini PC or an Intel NUC, because it's not.
It's shaped like an Atari. That's how.
I see that. Yes.
That's it.
Yes.
That's the thing.
It runs a version of Ubuntu. I mean, it
Yeah.
really is just a Linux mini PC. And we speculated previously that we both kind of think that they kind of wanted out of this, but they were already too far along. So it
Right.
really seems like they're just going to produce the units they have on pre-order and get some money back and then just cut it loose.
Yeah, because they sent out emails today saying that it was starting to sell out, so make sure to order it now, which implies that they aren't planning a second batch of them.
Yeah.
Which speaks very poorly to the store built into it. If they aren't going to build a second batch of them, why the fuck should anyone publish anything on its store if only that first batch of people are going to get them?
Yeah.
So it's a very confusing prospect in the best case scenario. The reviews for it are awkward. They say that once you install Windows on it, it's a fine little emulation and streaming box.
Yeah.
And
But
if
for
you
$300, a lot of things are
Yeah.
a fine little emulation and streaming box.
they say that the built-in interface is really neat and cute, and if you literally know nothing about computers, it is useful. But its inventory is incredibly limited, and the built-in games is incredibly limited, especially for something that costs that much.
Yeah. And it really seems like the support, both software and like warranty hardware wise, are going to be non-existent.
Right. So it's very strange. When it was announced, it felt like a joke. And then as they continue to string it on, it felt like a bad joke. And now that it's released, it just feels kind of sad.
Yeah. Well, it's Atari. That's the name
Yeah.
of the game for them right now.
Kind of sad.
8BitDo, who has long been our favorite third-party controller manufacturer, currently is offering their revamped 8BitDo arcade stick
Yep.
and their very recently released 8BitDo Pro 2.
Which
I
I
don't
have
think
been
either of
hearing.
us-
I've been hearing some joystick drift issues with the Pro 2.
Really?
Yeah.
That's unfortunate.
Mhm.
I neither one of us has a Pro 2 yet.
No.
Reviews have been positive.
Yeah.
The 8-bit-do arcade stick is still it's great. I still highly recommend it.
Yeah.
But that's kind of all that's been coming out of them right now.
Right. They still have several of their
Right. I
legacy
mean, they're still
controllers
selling
available. Yeah.
a ton of their inventory, but those have been their two big pushes lately.
Right,
Is those
yeah.
two. Emulation handhelds. There are a lot of these.
Yes.
We don't own any of them. We don't have much in the way of recommendations.
Yeah, I have
but
a 3DS.
They are, but there you go. They are becoming more and more common. There's like the Retroid Pocket. There's the, I don't even remember any of the other ones. There's lots of them.
Yeah.
There's tons of them. The Pi 4 remains kind of the gold standard for price and performance, even in 2021.
Yeah.
But it still requires a bit of know-how and computer knowledge to set up properly. The Pi 400 has been out for a little bit. Both the Pi 4 and the 400 are readily available.
Yeah. You can find them in stores. You can get them online. They are something you can actually get, unlike many other things.
Yeah. As stated on our 2 RetroPie episodes, which are now dated but still mostly relevant,
Right.
you do really have to enjoy tinkering to some extent.
For sure.
Even in 2021, RetroPie is still not plug and play. It is just not that simple.
Right.
It's still Linux, and Linux is one of those things where every once in a while it'll all be plug and play and it works the first time.
Right. It's gotten closer to plug and play than it's ever been, though, with a lot of the pre-built images that people have.
But it's still not quite there.
No, it's still not there. But if you are looking for as close to a plug and play experience as you can get, you can pick up a Pi and whatever case and accessories you want with it, and just load a pre-built image that already has ROMs on it and is already configured, and you just plug it into your Pi, you power it up, and it should, in theory, work. And in that scenario, it's close-ish to plug and play, but it's still not anywhere close to what the dedicated mini consoles were.
We should also mention mini consoles. The NES and SNES minis are still coming up on refurb from Nintendo directly every once in a while.
Yeah, we've seen the Super NES show up refurb once in the last year, I believe.
I think we would still both recommend them as devices if you can get your hands on them. I think the Genesis Mini is still pretty available.
Yeah, I saw it at Target not long ago.
The Turbo Mini is
gone.
Not.
Yeah,
it's
sad. The last time we brought it up, we had mentioned that somehow it was still in stock, and it has not been that way pretty much since then. It's gone, and it's already going up in price, which is really unfortunate because it was a fantastic device, and it still hasn't been hacked yet, which is really strange.
No. It felt like before chip shortages and COVID, mini consoles were like the new wave of the future, and that has been, in 2021, just chopped off at the knees.
Right. Not to say they can't come back, but...
Right, they could, but I think we're going to need to come back into a world where we have a plethora of chips and cheap shipping available to make it worth it. The Mister, which is hardware emulation, has gained a lot of popularity since we've talked about it last. It continues to have functions added. Getting the right hardware setup can be a bit confusing.
Right.
Retro RGB has a really great hardware guide, but price-wise, just the base unit before other additional hardware that may or may not be required for what you want, usually at least one other piece of hardware is floating around $170 right now.
So compared to a Pi, it is much pricier. You do get a more authentic experience
Absolutely.
When it's all configured correctly, but it's comes at a price.
Android still has emulators, controller support. It's not gone away. RetroArch has a native Android port, and it works great. It supports Android just directly on the screen or Bluetooth controllers.
Right.
There's also, it works on Android TV, it works on the Shield. You can do Chromecast with Google TV. It's Android's great for emulation.
Oh yeah.
So if you're like, man, all these devices are sold out, nothing's coming out, there's no mini consoles, I can't get my hands on anything, it's still an option. iOS does still have emulator options that sometimes circumvent Apple's protections, but keep in mind they generally will not work indefinitely as Apple is constantly updating things to get rid of them.
However, if you have a jailbroken iOS device, you do have more options available to you.
The Wii is still floating around out there.
Yeah.
You can still get a Wii for not insane prices. They're still around the $50, $60 mark.
Right.
And it's still a damn good emulation device, and the only one that we are listing today that does 240p over components. So if you're a CRT person, then yeah, it's an option.
If you had told me in 2006 that the Wii would still be $50, I'm not sure I would believe you.
And then, of course, your PC. I do want to mention PC part. Don't build a PC right now.
No.
PC parts are insane. But RetroArch is on PC, and it does not take much hardware at all to emulate everything up to the PS1.
Right. Including the PS1, really, because you can
Yeah.
do that pretty easily. Heck, we were emulating PS1 on PCs back in the 90s. And even beyond that, some of the others, there are enough fudges in emulation that you can often get PS2 and Dreamcast running pretty well on a mid-range PC.
Yeah.
Also,
let's-
Dolphin runs beautifully on most computers.
Let's talk about CRTs.
What-
Because I've been following CRTs lately.
no, not
and
again.
I'm not going to get one because let me tell you, just in the couple of years since I've kind of fallen out of paying attention to CRTs,
Yeah.
they have gotten beyond exorbitant. Please do not pay $200 for a 13-inch consumer set. Please
Holy
don't.
damn.
These things are landfill clutter.
Right.
These things are junk. They were CRT televisions, especially smaller ones, were mass produced all to shit in the early 2000s.
Yeah, you could go to any department store and there would be a massive stack of 17-inch CRTs for $50 each.
I found a specific CRT it's a little like 12-inch and it has a built-in VCR.
Right.
And it was really ugly. And I was like, I like dumb, ugly electronics. I bet you I could pick one of those up for like $50. It's really cool looking.
Yeah.
I saw one of them sell for $300.
Holy hell.
I saw one with a $250 bid that had the power cord snipped off of it. It is insane. If you are into CRTs, especially if you're into wanting to get a PVM or a BVM or some type of professional monitor CRT, I cannot recommend it right now. As someone who has played on many CRTs, I've played a lot of hardware on CRTs. I've played a lot of hardware on PVMs because I had a PVM and Saturn has a PVM now.
Yeah.
It's not worth that cost. It's cool if you can get it for a reasonable amount of money, but it is not worth that money unless you're like a professional speedrunner or something like that, and you're like, no, I have to have it lag free.
Yeah.
I cannot recommend a CRT. I mean, go ask your older relatives. I guarantee you they got one sitting in the back room, and they are not worth anything. I'm sorry. I'm sorry, eBay. You're wrong.
It's disgusting. Really, the name of this episode could have been, I'm sorry, eBay, you're wrong.
Yeah. Let's talk software landscape briefly. Retro compilations seem to be kind of a dime a dozen these days, which is really nice.
We're getting some good ones.
Almost all non-Battle Network Mega Man games are available in most consoles.
You
can
I
get
believe
them
all
everywhere.
consoles right now.
Mega Man X, Z, ZX, they're all out there.
And all the original series.
Konami and their collections are widely available and have been largely fixed since launch. There were some early issues.
There's still some issues.
But I don't think issues that would keep me from saying, oh, you really love Castlevania, you should get the Castlevania collection.
If you've got any non-controller inputs on your Xbox, including a remote control for your Xbox, if you have the IR remote control for it, and you try to load up the arcade collection, it still will not let you use a menu. It just doesn't.
God damn it, Konami.
Yeah. It wasn't Konami this time. It was Hamster. Apparently, a lot of
Ridiculous.
Hamster's arcade games on Xbox have that problem.
Sega Ages was sadly put out to pasture. That was a wonderful M2 produced Sega collection not a collection. They're individual titles.
Right.
On the Switch eShop. There's still wonderful versions of those games. Please go pick them up.
Definitely.
Kunio-kun collection, SNK 40th collection, Namco, both arcade and NES collections. Many other compilations have been released in recent years.
I want to say that Kunio-kun collection is about to get a physical release in the West, too.
I think it is. I think LRG announced one.
Yeah.
And as much as we bitch about Nintendo Switch Online and its anemic NES and SNES offerings, there's still a lot of game to be had there.
Not as much as there should be.
No, not nearly as much, but there's still some,
There
and it
is.
does include online. And there are
Online.
NES and SNES controllers for the system that aren't too hard to get since
No.
Nintendo re-released them. They're
Yep.
still available
Yeah.
in places.
Right.
PS1 classics are still not available on the PS5 at the time of writing, but
Or
the
the
PS5 is, or the PS4. But the PS5 is also kind of barely available anyway.
Right.
They are still available on the PS3, PSP, and Vita
Yep.
as of now, though.
Right.
So they're there.
Right.
The Xbox marketplace has thankfully still remained pretty static in terms of having old and retro titles available, especially if you like the Dreamcast Saturn era. I will say that older Xbox Live Arcade titles kind of vary in terms of quality.
true.
And it's kind of a crapshoot if they've been certified to work on the Xbox One and up, but there's still a lot of classic gaming on the Xbox marketplace.
Yeah, and when things do get removed, it seems to be on a per title basis. It's not like an entire library gets wiped out at once.
Yeah. So in extreme brief, that's kind of where classic gaming is right now, except for one glaring section of the hobby,
What's that?
which is original hardware.
Oh,
Let's talk about original hardware.
Yeah.
I do want to give a
original
note.
hardware.
I'm about to give a bunch of eBay prices here,
Yeah.
and these prices are according to price charting, which is not perfect,
Right.
but it is the best general video gaming price database we have right now.
Yeah.
And I do want to note that any prices mentioned here are going to be lower prices than if you just want to buy it now on eBay. These are the I tracked this for 2 weeks and sent a dozen messages and finally found a good deal prices, not the I just went on eBay and bought one right now prices.
Yeah, because those are always going to be much higher.
These are prices you are going to have to work for. And if you don't eBay regularly and there's some original hardware you want, I urge you, send some messages to people. Talk to some people. I've gotten some good prices on stuff just messaging people and being nice and talking to them. Not everyone on eBay is a shithead, just most of them.
Right.
So I did want to mention that before I start slamming out prices. These are prices that like you're gonna have to work for these prices,
Right.
But they do happen.
Yeah.
I've seen there are tracked eBay sales where they do happen.
Right.
And I really just kind of want to give a smattering right now of original hardware and games that are not stupidly expensive. If you're coming to the show and you're like, man, I want to get into retro gaming, I want to get some original hardware. No, I don't need to collect everything under the sun, but I want to have something because that is, for better or for worse, still a major part of the hobby.
Right.
And I want to start with the Dreamcast
Mhm.
because the Dreamcast still remains pretty affordable.
Yeah.
Depending on the titles you're after. I'm sorry. I did want to start with EverDrives.
Yeah.
EverDrives are still available. They're coming to more and more systems.
Or
and-
flash carts in general. It doesn't have to be an
yeah,
EverDrive brand.
Depending on your budget, you may look into knockoff EverDrives and cheaper produced flash carts.
Right.
Although obviously your mileage may vary, there are a lot of them showing up on eBay and AliExpress for like the $30, $40 range for a lot of systems.
Right.
And if you're not needing some of the more advanced EverDrive hardware functions, it's still a very good way to go.
Especially if you're
anyway,
not looking to play specifically hard to emulate games or hard to
Yeah.
reproduce games.
Dreamcast is still pretty available.
Mhm.
It's around $50 for a system, $50-$60, and a lot of games on the Dreamcast are still in the cheaper range. So I would say Dreamcast is also a system that's gotten a lot of love as far as aftermarket hardware modifications.
And post death software releases too. There's been a lot of
yes,
recent independent homebrew games released commercially on Dreamcast.
still available. A lot of the basic accessories are still available. You can burn games for the Dreamcast just out of the box.
Yeah.
You
You don't always get the
and-
same quality as the original, but you usually get
Correct.
close enough that you
but
won't
you can
notice.
play them.
Yeah.
Yeah. So I did want to mention the Dreamcast, and it has been for many years. The prices are going up on it, but
It
it's
was bound
a
to
great
happen.
it's a great system if you're just like, hey, I want to spend $100 and get a system and a few games,
Right.
and go from there. And maybe I'll get one of those crazy, optical drive emulators for it later on, or maybe I'll do the little silent fan mod or whatever cool stuff you want to do to it. There are a lot of options for Dreamcast.
Definitely.
That still remain pretty affordable.
Also, you can still get VMUs off of Walmart's website brand new.
Yeah, I got one a couple years ago. Let's talk NES.
Yeah.
Because we do need to cover some of the big hitter systems. For under $30,
Mm-hmm.
you can still pick up any one of the original 3 Mario games.
Right.
Either Zelda game.
Yeah.
The original Final Fantasy or Mega Man 2 for the $30 or under price category if you're really shopping and you're really spending some time tracking some auctions.
And probably plenty of other games that we have mentioned on the show.
True.
But those are
Yeah.
just some of the biggest ones.
Yeah, I'm trying for these lists. I tried to pick big titles for the systems.
Right,
If you're
that's
saying,
fair.
"Hey, I want to get an NES and like just get a small handful of like big hitter titles," there
Yeah.
you go.
Right.
The system itself goes for around $50 to $60, give or take.
Hmm.
The Super Nintendo is kind of a hodgepodge of prices. It's insane.
Yeah.
For under $30, you can still get Super Mario World, Link to the Past, Donkey Kong Country, Mario All Stars, and Star Fox.
Each, not all together.
Yes, each.
Yeah.
Super Metroid is $75 for some reason.
It's got to be the speedrunning community.
Holy
'Cause
shit.
That game has a massive speedrunning community.
And I don't understand why Link to the Past is still in the kind of cheaper category. In fact, I'm kind of wondering if I looked at it wrong, so I'm going to go look it up right now live on the show because I can't believe that game is still $30.
Yeah. Well, it was a very common game that was reprinted a few times throughout the system's life.
I guess that's true. Yeah, it's $30.46 loose right now. It has gone up $1 since I wrote these notes.
But no, also a lot of the speedrunning community for Link to the Past plays the randomizers, which you can't use the standard card for that.
I will say just about any RPG on the Super Nintendo is stupidly expensive.
And have been since the 90s.
Yeah. The hardware itself is going for about $75, so you're looking at about $100 just for the system and a good game.
Yeah.
The Genesis for under $15.
Yep.
You can get Sonic 2, Street Fighter 2 Championship Edition, Aladdin, or Mortal Kombat 1 or 2.
Yeah.
For under $30, you can get Sonic 3, Streets of Rage 2, Golden Axe, or Earthworm Jim, although Earthworm Jim is like right at that upper limit.
Why?
And I don't know, but people fucking love it. I don't like the game, but I have to mention it because people love Earthworm Jim. So the system itself is around $50, depending on which model you get. So you're looking at, you can spend $100
since the last time I looked at Genesis consoles.
It has. So you're looking at like $100. You could get a decent stack of games in a Genesis for not too bad. And then PlayStation, PS1. And these prices are complete in box because anytime it's a disc game, I always list the complete in box price, not the loose price, because who wants a loose disc?
Yeah.
For under $30, you can get Final Fantasy 7, 8, or 9.
Nice.
You can get Spyro, Crash Team Racing, Crash Bandicoot 2, all under $30.
I'm shocked they're over $20, but you know.
The system
whatever.
itself is $40.
Damn.
So for, $100, you could get Crash Bandicoot, your favorite Final Fantasy, and the system.
Did you pull up any handhelds?
I did not do any handhelds.
But we just recently did a
handhelds-
GBA episode, and we covered a lot of that.
Handhelds in particular are kind of crazy right now. Specifically, the GBA has just gone insane recently.
Why?
And I don't even know. I keep waiting for it to go down, honestly. But I know Tetris is around $10. You can get the Wario Land games are Wario Land, the first one, which is Super Mario Land 3, is right at $20. Donkey Kong is just under $20.
Donkey Kong 94 or Donkey Kong Land?
Donkey Kong 94.
Okay.
Pokemon, I'm sure if you're getting a Game Boy, you're going to want Pokemon. You can get Red, Yellow, or Blue for around the $40 mark. Pokemon Red's $45. Yellow and Blue are just under $40. Final Fantasy Adventure for $26. So you could pick up a Game Boy Pocket for around $40 and get a couple games. Spend $100. I don't know. In my head, I like the idea of someone being like, I have $100 bill.
Yeah.
What'll give me a system and a couple games? That's what I want for my $100 bill.
All right, well, go buy yourself a RetroPie.
Yeah, I mean, really, that's my real rate. But if you're like, I want to get into collecting something,
I
I gotta do it.
Right.
as far as Game Boy Advance, the system is high. They're float around the $50 to $70 range, depending on the color variant. The games are just high. Mario Brothers Deluxe is still cheap. It's around $15.
That's not bad.
All the Pokemons are $40. Pokemon Crystal is over $80.
Damn.
Metal Gear Solid is over $100.
Why?
Link's Awakening DX is $40. Oracle of Ages is $40.
Jeez.
It's just real high. GBA, it's just disgusting. You can get Link to the Past for $20.
That's not bad.
You can get Mario Advance 4 for like $15. All the Mario Advance games are affordable. Zero Mission is $75 right now. Fusion is $40. I can't reconcile these prices. So handhelds are a little nuts. Original Game Boy, you could get some stuff. Game Gears, a functioning Game Gear is about $70 right now.
That's because so many of them are broken. So
Most of the games are $15 or under.
Right.
So you could pick up, maybe you could spend $70-$80, get a refurb Game Gear, and then pick up a couple games and still be under $100.
Just
it's feasible.
Be real careful when buying a Game Gear, because they do almost all need to be recapped, and if it hasn't been recapped soon, it needs to be recapped very soon, because it'll probably die on you.
Yeah.
So you got to be careful.
Also,
with that one.
if you've not looked at a Game Gear screen in a while, know what you're buying, because you might just want to shell out for an already modded one, because woof.
Justin, why didn't we include the TurboGrafx in this? What are we going to buy on a TurboGrafx 16 for under $100?
What you will buy for a TurboGrafx 16 for under $100 is a turbo from Analog when they come out, and a CD burner.
That won't be
Those
under
are what you
$100.
Those are what you it won't be. I get you. RetroPie. Yeah, that's basically it.
Yeah, that's pretty much option.
So yeah, it's a lot, and I'm not going to go through every system, but
No.
I feel like we've covered some like big stuff.
Right.
N64 is suspiciously absent, but it can be absent. Really, my advice in general is that the bubble isn't going to burst, and if it's going to burst, it's not going to be anytime soon. If you are desperately after original hardware for some reason, maybe you're a speedrunner, maybe you're just like, hey, I love doing the emulation, but I still want some actual history, on my shelf. Then these are not going to fall. So get what you can at a reasonable price now, and look for other options elsewhere. If you're like, man, I just love the Super Nintendo and I want to have one, then no, you probably can't afford to buy, Final Fantasy 3 on it and Lufia 2 on it, but you can still get Super Mario World, Mario All-Stars, Donkey Kong Country, and then maybe pick up one of the cheaper EverDrives, later on down the line, and still have a good time with original hardware. And we're not even covering like display options for original hardware. So many systems are getting upgraded display options. The Super Nintendo has the HD Retrovision component cables that you just plug right in.
Right. And
they look great.
Yeah, my Super NES is RGB modded, and it looks incredible.
Yeah.
There's plenty of mods out there. I think that the bubble may burst someday. I don't think that it'll be in the immediate future. And my fear is that by the time that the bubble does burst, a lot of this hardware will have started to degrade. And become less and less usable without fan-based repairs and modifications.
Yeah.
And if you don't already have retro hardware by that point, and again the prices seem to only be going up, I think your better bet is going to be some kind of FPGA or aftermarket modern replacement console.
Absolutely.
And a flash cart. Because the cartridges are also going to start to rot away. I've got a whole room full of shit that's going to be rotting any moment now, and I'm like panicking over
Some of it might already be Saturn.
I know. So
I feel like in 2021, just as far as like a general state of the hobby thing, we're in this in-between point right now where FPGA stuff is there,
right,
and it's able to give you so close to the original experience,
right,
so as to almost replace it, but the hardware and the price points just aren't quite there yet as far as availability and how much it costs.
And also, we have to remember that for a lot of people listening to this, a lot of people your age or my age or even a little bit older, a lot of it is the nostalgia of the physical thing. And
Right.
these FPGA consoles, while they can reproduce the experience, they can't reproduce the look of a Genesis console on your shelf.
What I would
So,
say is, if you are really chasing something,
Mhm.
you're like, I'm after some kind of nostalgic experience. I don't quite know what it is. I urge you to spend some time trying to work out like what it is for you.
right.
What is that thing that gives you that feeling that you're chasing, and
Right.
find a good way to approximate that? Because for me personally,
Mhm.
mini consoles, it's just enough physicality.
Yeah.
Having the little tiny thing in the controller that plugs in that looks just like the original controller, and then having the kind of limited, availability and limited tinkering options where I just kind of have to play games, and the cute menus that kind of evoke nostalgia. For me, that's enough. That gets close enough. That checks the boxes that I need checked for me to be like, yes, this is retro gaming to me. This is where I want
Right.
to be. So maybe really think about like, hey, why am I going out spending $400 on Super Nintendo stuff? Like,
Right.
is actually putting in an authentic cartridge really doing something for me, or
Right.
would I be better off buying an EverDrive?
Yeah, for
You
me, if I'm just playing a game, I get just as much of an experience from loading it up on my computer from a text-based menu, a list of games, and then using a modern Xbox controller as I do from the original console. I
Yeah.
want the original consoles just because I kind of like to be surrounded in it. I like to be reminded of what it was like to walk into a rental store or a Funko Land
Yes.
20 years ago.
And to be fair, for people looking, and maybe that's someone listening is like, that's what I want, so I just have to buy all the games. You don't have to buy games.
No, you really
You
don't.
can buy posters, you can
Yes.
buy repro game boxes, you can buy standees, you can buy all kinds of art and things that can
Yes.
give you that feeling
Right?
without having to spend
Spend
$75 on
thousands of
Super
dollars.
Metroid.
Right.
Yeah. I do want to give modern system recommendations for people that are just like, hey, I just like classic gaming.
Right.
But I don't want to do with all the fuss. What is the best modern system for me to pick up to
Yeah.
play some classic games? I kind of feel like the Switch has sort of become the de facto standard for retro compilations and remakes and re-releases. Between Arcade Archives and you've got the Johnny Turbo stuff. You've got tons and tons of collections on it. Tons of shmups are getting released for the
Yeah.
Switch, which is wonderful. If you're just looking for kind of the best current platform to quickly pick up and get retro stuff and go, then it's pretty hard to go wrong with the Switch.
Now, I would add the caveat that if you really like to hack things, then a Xbox Series S or Series X can run RetroArch just by going into dev mode, which doesn't require any hardware mod to the system. You just have to switch the system into dev mode.
Yeah, you do need to have a separate storage device, I believe, for it to run off of, don't you?
I think so. I'm not certain on that. I know people have been able to kind of dual boot them. I think it might be able to partition something. I haven't
Okay,
played with it
okay.
myself, so don't
Yeah.
quote me on anything. But you can play RetroArch on it. It does give you access to a ton of things, just emulating through RetroArch. You can play up to PS2. I know it's not perfect and not all games are supported, but that gives you a huge library of classic games. Those consoles are much harder to find than a Switch is right now, and you won't be able to get as many games legally as you can on a Switch. But if that is something you are interested in, it's worth considering. And also as a special consideration, I would throw a almost modern console in there with the Wii U.
Yeah.
Just because the Wii U can play Wii U games and Wii games, and with some modifications, GameCube games, and
Although you probably pay as much as you would for a Series X getting a Wii U at this point.
is the Wii U gone up in
It's-
price?
It's been creeping up.
Ugh, that's depressing.
The 32 gig black console
Yeah.
it's still going for about $180.
That's not bad.
It's not bad. It's not great.
No, but
But if
that's
you
way
know,
cheaper than they were a couple of years ago.
true, very true.
And if you can get one for that price, you can then pretty easily hack it to get it to play GameCube games. If you already
Correct.
have Wii or GameCube games, you can rip them to it and store them on a hard drive. You can load Virtual Console games on there. The Virtual Console for the Wii U is still available. The Wii Virtual Console, unfortunately, is not.
Yeah.
But it is obtainable. So there are options with the Wii U, and if you can get one, it is at the moment still a little bit cheaper than a Series X, and might be worth considering as a retro console.
As far as final thoughts, where retro gaming is in 2021,
Is
the
expensive.
the numbers are just going to keep going up.
Yeah.
I really stand by find what you want out of the hobby. It may
Right.
be this thing where you're like, no, there's this one game. Like we just recently did our Guardian Legend episode. I played that on my NES because that game is important to me, and it's important that I play that on my original hardware. I played it on an NES on a CRT. And it might be one of those things where, you get a Super Nintendo, but really there's only a couple games that you really have to have that cartridge for.
Right.
Maybe instead of having shelves full of games, you have shelves full of game-related stuff. Maybe you pick up a big stack of old gaming magazines at a
Right.
used bookstore or something, and that's how you approximate this feeling. Maybe you just put some wood paneling on your walls and buy some mini consoles, like really think about... what is this hobby to me? What do I want to get out of it?
Maybe you just cheat at Pac-Man.
Yeah, it's frustrating that this is where we are. I feel like when we started doing the show, retro gaming was this thing where we were like, just jump in, start throwing money around, stuff's available. Some things are crazy, but hey, man, go get you some systems. Go pick you up a CRT on the side of the road or at a pawn shop. But now it's turned into this thing where you really need to kind of make calculated maneuvers in this space. Which is it's unfortunate. It's not the Wild West it was in the early aughts. But I do think there's still a lot of fun to be had here, and I do encourage people to explore this as a hobby because it is important that people explore it in whatever way they find convenient to them. That's it.
I've been kind of immersed in retro or classic gaming at least since the late 90s. I distinctly remember sitting around on message boards and in chat rooms, and sometimes with other people from my school or people older than me, and talking about old games on the Atari or the NES or whatever. And that was when the PlayStation and N64 were still current, and we were referring to the NES as if it was some kind of relic already. And it was barely 10 years old.
But to be fair, in that era, I mean, you weren't seeing NES shit getting constantly revived, referenced, shown in pop culture.
But you were still seeing it
compilations
used in stores everywhere.
True, that's true.
You could still go buy a copy of Akari Warriors any day of the week if you wanted to.
But don't.
No, don't do that. Don't do that. But no, it's something that I have been following for well over 20 years at this point, and I have tried to keep myself engaged in the conversation in it for all this time. And it went from back then, it was a thing that was dismissed. It was, oh, you're the weirdo that won't sell your old shit. And then eventually it was, oh, you're the weirdo that has that old shit I want to play. And now it is
you're that weirdo that has that old
scheme.
shit that investors need to come take from you so that they can get
it's gotten really weird and bizarre. So for people who actually just want to play the games, which has always been where I've been, if you have no other, if you don't have any of it yet, if you don't have any hardware, you don't have anywhere to jump in yet, I say just grab an emulator on your computer, on your phone, on something, and
I think it's important to note that classic gaming is more available in 2021 than it has ever been in the history of the world. It is on more devices, it is more available, it is more paid attention to, it is more accurately emulated, and it is more easy to do than any other time.
Yeah, and the people who write the emulators are taking it more seriously than they ever have before. And it's gotten to the point to where those emulators that used to be like, hush, hush, don't talk about it, it might be illegal, are being legally licensed for use in commercial products now.
Or illegally used without permission.
Yeah, that happens more than it should. But it is definitely something still worth looking into. It is still definitely something worth celebrating, and people should talk about how great it is, and people should be playing these games. But maybe don't, take out a second loan on your house for it. It's not worth going into debt for if you don't already have all this shit. The prices are just not, they're not there right now.
And again, if you're careful and smart with your money, because maybe you
Right.
do go get an emulator and you go, this is something I really want to invest in and spend some time with.
Absolutely. Then
It's not impossible. Again, just calculated maneuvers.
Right.
Know
Do
what
your
you're
research
buying.
first.
Know what you're going into. Maybe come join our Discord and chat with us.
Right.
Say, hey, I want to get into the links. What should I buy? And we're like, not a links. It's. So yeah. Anyway, that will wrap up our state of retro gaming in 2021.
So in a word, the state of retro gaming is it's still good. Go
Yeah,
play
still good.
games.
Available. That's the word.
But
It's
don't
available.
don't necessarily buy them all right now. Now is not the time for that.
Yeah. It's yeah. Anyway, thank you for listening and to the show, and we hope that you liked it, and we hope you also like our Patreon at patreon.com/Retro Warriors,
You're
where you
so
can get
good at this, Justin.
You can get this show early.
Uh-huh.
You can get Talking Wizards, where we talked about 50 First Dates for like 45 minutes. You can get After Hours, where we yell at each other in a big
Sometimes.
group, and
Yeah.
you can't really hear anyone talking because we're all yelling stuff.
Hey, Justin, do we have a website?
We do have a website. I'm glad you asked that. RetroWarriors.net is our website where you can find links to all of our cool stuff.
Yeah.
The magazine we used to do, our Patreon, our Discord. We
right.
subscribe to the show, which hopefully you already are if you're listening. It's all over the place. It's good stuff.
That's good.
But we want to thank the following patrons for making this episode possible, starting with Gold Leader,
And Evelyn Belchev.
Jerry Voz.
Oh, shit, I dropped my glasses. Logan Sharp.
I thought that was someone's name.
No.
Millie's Homemade Ice Cream is the best ever.
Tamachan 87.
Puff Puff, please.
Lil Bunny Fufu 89.
Ryan Walton
And Sean S.
are all the wonderful patrons we want to thank for making this show possible. And we want to thank you again for listening. And go rate and review us on your podcast aggregator. That helps a lot.
And I would like to apologize to the patrons for dropping my glasses in the middle of that segment.
Yeah, you should apologize.
I
It was
should.
a little much.
I'm sorry.
Just saying.
I shouldn't have did that.
Anyway, thank you so much for listening. We'll be back next week. And as always, let us cling together.